further to fall.
How much further do you think house prices have to fall then?
Well, I think it's very difficult to say at the moment. I think that that number, that 25% peak to trough, is a pretty feasible number in the current environment. But I think, as you'll understand from everything that you've been saying and covering this morning, is that there are still so many uncertainties around the funding markets at the moment that it's difficult to put a number on it right now. But that said, it does seem as though the pace of the price falls that we're seeing in the UK is perhaps beginning to stabilise. That has been accelerating since the beginning of the year, but over the last 3 months, it's been around about the same level. But that said, we do expect that prices will continue to fall, and that reflects confidence, that reflects a weakening economy, and it also reflects these tightening credit conditions that you mentioned from the Bank of England just now.
If we have a look at the numbers, so it's dropped 12% this year, so 9 months is pretty much gone. And you think, what, if we take your boss's words, that 25% peak to trough, you've got another, 12% to go. Are you looking at another 6 months, another 9 months, and then we'll see the bottom?
Well, I think it's difficult to know, and it is sort of slightly moving all the time. Not trying to say we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think it's fair to say that there is an awful lot of uncertainty, and we need to see what will come out of these discussions in the States and whether the House of Representatives votes for it. If that starts to stabilise the market, then that will lead to more liquidity in the funding markets, and that could help to stabilise confidence all round. But I think, given that we're seeing a sharp weakening in the economy, I think it will be some time before we see the housing market turning around.
I mean, maybe you don't know what's going to happen. That's not a bad thing to admit, is it? Because let's face it, no one has an idea what's happening on the global economic front at the moment. Because at the beginning of the year, you certainly didn't predict this, did you?
No, we didn't expect that things would fall at this sort of pace, and I think that's really because the movements in the financial markets have lasted for a much longer than we expected, and that's changing all the time, which is why I'm reluctant to say I think it's going to turn at this particular point in time, because there are so many still uncertainties out there. But I think it is fair to say that that we are in a cycle in a housing market, and we are seeing some correction to those big increases in prices that we have seen. But if you put that in the context too of where we were at the beginning of the decade, for example, even taking into account the price falls we've seen so far this year, and also taking into account inflation, then prices are still 60% higher in real terms.